You never thought you'd get to this place. Your bride, your best friend, the woman you fell in love with, has now become someone you despise. Does this sound like you? Hi, I'm Nathan, and I work as a coach here at Marriage Helper. If you hate your wife and you're not sure what to do about it, then you've come to the right place. In this video, I'll be talking you through some of the emotions you're probably feeling and give you 3 things to do to help you process what to do next in your marriage. Be sure to stick around until the end of this video for a free resource designed to help you decipher the compatibility between you and your wife. And it wouldn't be a YouTube video if it didn't have someone like me asking you to thumb up, subscribe, and turn on your notifications, so please be sure to do that now. Okay, let's dive into it. The first thing to do if you find yourself hating your wife is to wait. Yes, you heard me correctly. Wait. I know, I can already hear you saying, you can't be serious. I came to this video looking for action steps. I'm here because I'm desperate, and you want me to wait? Yes, and here's why. Many times, clients come to me in emotional distress. His wife is cheating on him with a coworker. Her husband was hiding thousands and thousands of dollars in credit card debt from his gambling addiction. Her husband just gave her his ring back and told her he was moving out. You get the idea. There's a good chance that if you're watching this video, you too are in some form of emotional distress. After all, feeling hatred towards your wife is much more frightening than feeling hatred towards, say, the New England Patriots or Justin Bieber. The reason why it's so important to wait before you make any decision is because hate is a powerful emotion. And believe it or not, as tempered and as logical as you may be, emotions almost always trump logic. What I'm saying is that if you're hating your wife, there's a good chance your emotions are clouding your judgment. If you make a decision now when emotions are high, you may end up regretting the consequences of that decision later when your feelings have changed. Emotions are always changing. A general principle in all aspects of life is to not make major life-altering decisions when you're in a highly emotional state. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying emotions are a bad thing. To the contrary, they're the body's way of communicating that something is wrong, and that's very important. However, emotions tend to change, so make sure that you don't make a decision too hastily. You say, well, how long should I wait? Typically, I recommend waiting at least 48 hours before you make any major decision if your emotions are high. Sometimes up to a week, depending on how hot your hate is at the moment. The truth is, it's not really an issue of time, but of emotion. Wait until you're in a good place emotionally. You may be asking, so you're telling me that just waiting can cause my emotions to change? Actually, it can. But time isn't the only thing you can do to help you process through your hate, which brings us to step number 2. Focus on yourself. Now, this is the point in the video where I'm glad I'm not in the same room as you, because I'm sure there are many of you who would be throwing something at me right now. First, he tells me to wait, and now he's telling me to focus on myself. How is focusing on myself going to change my wife? I don't hate her because of my behavior, but because of hers. Well, let me first say that I hear you. Truly, I do. I have no doubt your wife has hurt you, potentially in very severe ways. I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of some pretty crappy behavior from a spouse. But can I let you in on a little secret? The only person you can change in any human relationship is you. I can't tell you how many times I've coached a client to focus on themselves, only to have them return week after week after week with zero progress in their relationship. You want to know why? They weren't focusing on themselves, but their spouse. When you place the focus of your problems on anyone or anything outside of your control, you steal away whatever power you have to actually change the situation. Please hear me. I'm not saying that you're the reason you hate your wife. Marriage is much more complicated than that. But focusing on the things we can't control leaves us feeling even more hopeless, desperate, and hateful. What does focusing on yourself look like? Well, at Marriage Helper, we like to say that you've got to work your pies. PIES is an acronym that we use to help our clients become the best versions of themselves physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. We have a ton of resources to help you with your PIES, so I won't spend much time explaining how to put them into practice. Instead, I want to reiterate how important it is for your focus to be on you, not your wife, if you find yourself hating her. Remember all those clients whose situation never changed because they were only focusing on their spouse? Well, the reverse is also true. Those clients who didn't fall into the trap of focusing solely on their spouse, those who actually got to work on becoming better physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually, showed tremendous progress in subsequent calls. And you know what's really crazy? Their emotions begin to change even though their spouse's behavior did not. You want to deal with your hate? Focus on yourself. And that brings us to step 3. If you find yourself hating your wife, examine your stories. You see, the hate we feel is based on the stories we tell. You say, what do you mean? Well, right now, you have a series of stories in your mind about your wife. Many times, those stories actually escape your mind through your mouth as you tell others about the attitudes and behaviors of your wife. I mean, stop and think about it. What do you tell your buddies, your parents, your children, yourself about your wife? Well, she's lazy, she's too uptight, she's boring, she's unattractive. These stories that you have about your wife often become the interpretive lens through which you'll view your wife's behavior. And what's unfortunate is that those lenses, which come from our stories, can prevent us from seeing the good in our wives. Okay, a quick illustration. Let's pretend that tomorrow you come home to find a note on the door from your wife that reads, "Had to run to the store last minute to grab a few things for dinner. Be back soon." If some of the stories you have about your wife are that she's lazy, disorganized, and forgetful, then the note will further solidify those stories, and you will interpret the note through those lenses. Gah, there she goes again, always forgetting stuff, I swear. If there was an award for laziness, my wife would probably send someone else to pick it up for her. But if some of the stories you have about your wife are that she's hospitable, considerate, and detail-oriented, then the note will further solidify those stories, and you'll interpret it through those lenses. Man, what an amazing woman. She puts her whole heart into the meals she prepares. I really appreciate her dedication to our family and her good communication and letting me know her whereabouts. Some of you may be saying, okay, Nathan, I get your point, but I didn't just make up these stories about my wife. They're in my head because of her behavior. And to a large degree, you're right. I certainly don't want to communicate that you're lying to yourself or pulling these stories out of thin air. However, if you're trying to figure out what to do about the hate you feel, you need to stop and examine the stories you tell about your wife to make sure that you're not focusing primarily on the details that fit your current narrative, and that you're not overlooking important experiences that contradict your current narrative. If you want to stop hating your wife, examine the stories you tell about her. So, you hate your wife and you don't know what to do? Step 1, wait. Step 2, focus on yourself. Step 3, examine your stories. If you do these 3 things, I have no doubt the hatred you feel towards your spouse will begin to change. All right, I've done enough talking. I'd love to hear from you. Perhaps there's a story about your wife that you'd like to help in rewriting. If so, why not share it in the comments? And then if you're really brave, see if you can offer up a counterexample to that story. Doing so gets you that much closer to dealing with the hatred you feel. We also have a few resources we'd like to share with you. The first is a free quiz for you to take to help discover the compatibility between you and your wife. The other is the Why Does My Spouse Hate Me toolkit taught by our founder, Dr. Joe Beam, which is designed specifically for people like you in mind. Click the links on the screen to check out these ebooks and toolkits to help you with your marriage. Some of you may be curious as to the kinds of things we tell wives who are hating their husbands. Check out this video with our CEO, Kimberly Holmes, as she discusses the hatred wives may feel towards their husbands. Marriage Helper exists to support, strengthen, and save marriages to last a lifetime. I hope this video helps you in your journey. Thanks for watching.